Assalamu alaikum, hello and welcome to my show Connecting with Saima Parwaz. I hope all of you are doing great and waiting to see my today's guest. Why divorce rate is increasing here in Canada for the last few years? This is my today's topic, and I'm teaming up with my good friend and member of my team, Sabeeya Akram. How are you, Sabeeya?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much.
And what do you have done today?
It was very cold, so the first thing I did was grab my winter jacket, pop it on, and go to work.
So you're coming from work?
Yeah, right from work. Yeah. So yes, that is a very dense topic that we will be touching upon and diving ourselves through. So let's get to it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, first we're going to discuss the reasons, right?
Yeah.
But before that, we need to know what is marriage, right?
Yeah.
So, guys, what is marriage? Marriage is a process by which two people make their relationship public, official, and permanent. It is a joining of two people in a bond that potentially lasts till death, but in practice is often cut short by separation or divorce. So this is a marriage. It's in my words. What is the marriage in legal words?
So we see it as, so it's complex, but when I break it down into like two elements, my mind always thinks it as the coming together of two parties where they trigger rights and responsibilities towards each other. So when we marry, we trigger these rights, and then there's an expectation that we then bring upon ourselves to carry forward for the rest of the term of this marriage. And just like drawing from your definition, potentially till death does us part, or unfortunately sometimes we see a breakdown in it of this relationship, and then that's where we start to talk about things like separation and then divorce.
Yeah, but it's a commitment, right?
Yeah, it is. It's a long-term commitment, never to be taken lightly.
And every marriage needs work, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh yes, definitely. There's no perfect marriage, and if you are told that, if you overhear someone saying that they're in the most perfect marriage, I don't think that exists. Frankly, I don't. It's how you work away at it, how you invest in it, and how seriously you take it, right? The biggest thing in a marriage is staying faithful, and then drawing upon that many other elements that are important to people. And it's about how you digest it, how faithful you are, and then how you take it from there. That's how I see marriage, to be honest. Yeah.
Do you think, I'm not a gender biased, but do you think one person has to work hard into marriage?
I don't know. I sit on the fence for that one.
Maybe a woman?
I hear that a lot, that women have to play a lot of dynamic roles, not undermining the role of a male. They have their own hurdles, they have their own challenges, but women nowadays in the 21st century do have a lot of things that they have to deal with. They have to play the role of a wife, a sister, a daughter, a good mother, a good businesswoman, and we take upon all these roles, and to be perfect at all of them sometimes seems impossible. But I always tell, my friends that if we can just aim to do the best that we can, then we should be really happy about that, and we should be satisfied in life. Because it is difficult. And I feel like a lot of people are now talking about this dynamic role that women take on.
I think since the woman is more educated, they are more career oriented. So
Yeah.
divorces, do you think that divorces rate went up?
Or like, are you asking like
They're more
because of that?
independent.
You know,
They
I
are
see a
more,
lot of that
yeah.
trending in social media. Not that this is in any which way or form any sort of you know, advice, or we're not marriage counselors or anything like that. But the trends that I do now see on social media are that, you know, because I can be self-sufficient, then therefore I may not need that partner, or I may not need that commitment, and that may be weighing me down. Like that's a trend that I see. Not necessarily one that I believe in, but to answer your question, I am seeing a lot of that now. And being a family lawyer, you know, when people come in with that narrative that, you know, I just can't have this person slow me down anymore, you know, I oftentimes sit down my clients and say, okay, is there something that we can talk you out of it, or is there something that you need to see through into a separation? So it's hot. It's a hot topic right now.
Yeah. I want to say, probably it's my thinking, women, they are more educated, they are more career oriented, and probably there are very few or maybe less women over there who are very traditional, and they are out of their homes, they're doing everything. And the men, they're still looking for a traditional woman or traditional wife at home to taking care of their kids, for cooking, and also they need probably working wife. And probably this is another reason that divorces are on their high peak. That can be one of the reasons. What do you think?
I think so.
Think so,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like
Men are still.
this is what my mind kind of thinks about when I'm looking at all these allegations thrown amongst all sorts of parties. It's kind of like sometimes I feel like some of them are hollow in a sense that they're bantering issues that could have been you know, talked out of, but now they've accumulated in elements, so it becomes like a full-on divorce process. But it's because everyone has to play so many roles now that unfortunately we see those issues come home, right? That frustration come home, and then that causes more fights domestically. And when those fights unfold, it's about the many roles that each person is now playing, and they can't keep up, quite frankly. And then that's what leads to frustration, and then that's what leads to a breakdown in a relationship.
So Sabeeya, let's move to the actual topic about the divorce, right? When couple, they come to you, how do you, some steps you take initially?
Okay, so so if you see yourself in this process right now, or if this is a video that you're trying to take from, you know, let's start from the very basics. When a person comes to us, so when it could be male or female, doesn't matter, it's usually not the party that comes collectively. One of the people from the party will approach our firm, and they talk to us about how their relationship is now facing a breakdown, what we call it, and that there are no chances of reconciliation. So usually what I do is, right from the get-go, I hear out their materialized facts, and we try to gauge whether or not, you know, is marriage counseling a better fit for them, or is it really that it's facing a breakdown and that they now want to go into the whole process of separation and then eventually divorce. So when I hear those materialized facts, then I'm able to channel that party. You know, what is most fitting for them. So it goes basically in two different categories. One would be just settlement. So how two lawyers would initiate the terms for settlement, or it could go full throttle and into court. But I never throw my clients right into court. I always tell them the various options that we have available in settlement, and then eventually, if we need to lead it up to court, how we get there, and then what they should expect when we're in court.
So what is how long it takes usually?
Oh, so
to
it's very open-ended. So that's a difficult question to ask. So
probably
sometimes we
3
can settle
years?
it in a month or like in a week, you know, and then sometimes it can go off into years. But you know, our aim is always to, you know, settle the matters amicably, is what we say, and to help to help the parties, you know, come to a clean break. So if there are children from that relationship, it's easy on them when they see that their parents have come to a nice clean break. These parties are not ending up in court. They're not, you know, triggering the FRO or CAS, like Children's Aid Society. You know, if all these elements are not triggered, it makes it that much more less stressful for everyone in that family who is now coming to a separation, right? So we usually try to help parties settle it. It can take up to 1 week, up to months, or up to years, but our goal is always to go as fast as we can.
Now, what is the separation time?
Okay, so in accordance to the Divorce Act, you have to be separated for at least 1 year. So it would be the time your marriage had that initial breakdown up until the calendar 1 year is when you can then move your matter and file for divorce. It cannot be done before that.
So the couples, they live in different, same houses or different?
That's a good question. So it's often asked that if I'm living in the same home, can I be separated legally? And the answer is yes. The answer is that, you know, you cannot have a conjuring relationship, so you can't reconcile and then come apart, reconcile and then come apart and say that, oh, you know, this has been happening for the last year. No, it's when it faces that major breakdown with no prospects of you reconciling, that would be the date that we would take to docket the 1 year mark. Okay.
So is the separation in even finances too, or is just basically what is the separation?
Okay, so a separation would be you breaking that bond of marriage. So you saying, listen, we are now no longer in the bondage of marriage and we're each to our own. Okay, so what it doesn't mean is that you don't have to stop carrying costs for your home if that's what you're asking. So you could still keep contributing, you would still keep contributing to the financial roles that you each played, but that to see a calculation towards the end when we do something called a financial disclosure. Okay, but you could still be in your own home and continue to live separate and apart. Okay, and that means physically and emotionally you're separate and apart, but you can still be paying towards the costs of carrying that home.
Or if they have a children, so they're taking care of
Yes,
the children, right?
yes.
So what is the percentage when people get separated, right? And they get together after 1 year? Is it?
Oh, you're okay. So the 1 year after the 1 year turnaround, it's highly unlikely. What I usually see play on is the separation agreement that we've had drafted, provided the fact that they did exercise the option of having a separation agreement. It goes right into filing for divorce after that 1 year mark. And, you know, oftentimes couples come to us already exhausted that 1 year means. So they've already taken the time for the 1 year to try to reconcile themselves. And it's when they're hitting that 1 year mark, then we see clients come through the door and say, listen, we've met that 1 year mark for our separation. And, you know, now we're ready to have drafted our separation agreement. And now we're ready to move to divorce as well. So it's not that they go through that 1 year mark with us. I usually see them already have gone through that 1 year mark and now they're coming in to see a lawyer. Yeah.
So they have to go for 1 year separation
Yeah,
term?
it's a must.
It's
in
must.
accordance to the Divorce Act. Yeah. Okay.
Guys, the purpose for this show is bringing up this topic to educate you guys, but I'm very against for this thing, and probably many of you guys. Just couples, if you are thinking to go for divorce or something, please think before going for this. Think about your families, your children, and after effects. Here you go, Sabeeya.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
So I always run through that with my client that, you know, when you're going through a breakdown, you know, is this now your last option? And unfortunately, when people, come to see a lawyer, they're at the end of it. And sometimes it's because that's their only option available. Like there might be people out there who are domestically abused at home, or there's a lot of violence, or there's mental anguish, and they just can't take it anymore. And so there's a stigma attached to it that we need to break, because sometimes people need to end this relationship to be a better version of themselves, right? They continue to present the worst version of themselves being tied in that relationship because of everything that's happening within that relationship. And if they feel that they're caught up in that relationship, they're not who they really need to be or want to be. And sometimes when parties end the relationship, it's nice to see that the children are in a better position, because now they're not seeing that domestic abuse or violence every day at home. So the materialized facts for each couple vary. And if you're on the what I would say the better end of the spectrum, that maybe marriage counseling is an option for you, then you need to exercise that. You need to give every marriage a second chance. But if you find yourself in a certain predicament that you cannot no longer be in that relationship because of everything that is happening domestically, and you're afraid or you're shy or you don't know what your rights are, then you need to call a lawyer and you need to find out what options there are available for you. There are many of us that are willing to take it pro bono, take that free consultation over the phone. You can, drop 2 pieces of ID so we can take that initial consultation, and we'll give you free information. It can't be full-on advice that first instance, but the best thing is in that initial consultation, you get a lot of information. And I always tell my potential clients, information is key. It educates you. And when you're educated, you form a sense of wings. You're able to navigate and channel yourself correctly and make informed decisions for yourself, right?
All right.
Yeah.
That's
a lot to take in.
It's a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
Sabeeya, what is the difference between divorce and separation agreement?
Okay, so that's a really good question. And a lot of our clients will come in thinking that, they have to go directly to court, okay? And that's not true. So usually what we tell our clients, and in no way is this legal advice, it's just information. If you feel like you need legal advice, you need to call a lawyer and, talk to them about advice, but this is just information. It may not be suitable for all. Having said that, a separation agreement is something that we call, seeing your way out of the marriage with a clean break. And we offer this option when we know that the parties are not coming from a relationship that has seen violence or mental anguish, and that there's no criminal charges laid between parties. Then this becomes one of the number 1 options that we tell our clients that they should go for. And what that entails is staying out of court and having your major and minor issues settled between the parties. And you may ask, okay, how is that done? That's done between the 2 counsels, where we would then discuss the major issues, for instance, support obligations, both spousal and child support. We would talk about property, the matrimonial home, and any sort of major and minor bank accounts, and then international properties as well. So these are all the topics, and there could even potentially be more. And we would help you navigate your way out of it in a very clean way, in a very amicable way, and a cost-effective way. So what this helps do for clients is that it keeps their retainer costs at bay. It's economical, and it satisfies everyone. And at the end of it, we draft a full separation agreement where you have your ILAs attached with our independent legal advice certificates. Everyone signs, and then that governs the way you move forward into court. So potentially you've now settled everything you would have in court, but outside of court a lot more cost effectively and also less time consuming. So where something could take months on months, this could take a few weeks to wrap up, depending on how everyone is moving and how fast disclosures are being provided. But having said that, like I mentioned, sometimes it's not always the option for everyone. So if you feel like you're coming out of a divorce that has violence or criminal issues involved, then that potentially may not be an option that you can exercise. So then we offer our clients, more education in terms of, how it now has to go to court. We need to start an application, and then from there it goes into a case conference, and then it moves on in court. Okay. And that's always a lot more costly. So where we're kind of like wrapping something up in terms of a separation agreement, the retainers for court start at that amount. So we try to always, tell our clients, let's first see if this is an option that we can exercise, potentially even introduce MEDAR to them, which is mediation arbitration. And then, most of our files finish there. And if it needs be, then it goes to court.
But it's a long process.
It's a process, but it eventually gets done
It's done.
because we're aggressive.
And it's also painful too, right?
Well, there's always emotional attachments, right?
yeah.
But, the good thing, I don't know, I laugh with my colleagues that, family lawyers have to play like this dynamic role where we're like counselors and marriage counselors and we're the counsels on records. But we try to channel those emotions and help our clients do a cost-benefit analysis, really. Like, is it worth going to court for something that, you're running after, or is it better that you come to a negotiation and you settle it?
Usually they come together, the couples, or they come in by themselves?
No, by themselves. So every party would want to have their own lawyer to represent their own interests.
Okay. So who
Yeah.
you mostly get, girls or
I think I get a good mix of them.
mix?
Yeah. So we got a good mix of both females and male clients.
Yeah,
We
probably
represent both.
Probably the females say are more comfortable with the female, right?
Yeah, sometimes it's like that. So I noticed for our South Asian community, our female clients will like to hire a female lawyer, but sometimes the male clients feel more comfortable with the female, so they want to hire the female.
Guys, we are going for a short break, and I'll see you after the break. Sabeeya, how was your break?
It was good. I got some water.
Okay, that's good. All right. So my next question is, what is financial disclosure?
Okay, so when we initially start the process of either negotiating, the terms of your settlement, or if your matter is going to court, the first thing we ask for is financial disclosure, and what that means is literally disclosing all your finances, which entails, your property, and what debt you still have on that remaining, any sort of costs that go towards that. Then we get into bank accounts, all the disclosures for, your accounts that you opened during the course of your marriage or had opened at the time of marriage to the time of separation. So the day you say you've separated from the start date of your marriage. And then we talk about disclosure. Then we get into disclosure for, international property or other goods that may hold a fair market value, like precious metals, for instance, cars and vehicles, boats, things like that. And it could even be household goods, furniture, anything that sort of comes to mind that may have a FMV is what we ask for disclosure. What that does is that it puts a holistic picture in front of both the counsels, or if it was in court, in front of the judge, in terms of that individual's financial standing. What did they have? What did they gain? Or how much debt they gained from that course of marriage? Debt is another thing that is disclosed in your financial disclosure, and it's very important because if in the course of your marriage you accumulated debt, then both of you are also responsible towards that debt. So it's not only the increase in assets that you may tap into, it's also the debt that you may also be now liable towards. Okay, so that's like a snippet of what financial disclosure kind of entails.
There's so many things. Right?
Yeah, so many things. And there are so many elements. And, you know, a lot of the times people feel like they're confused and they find it very overwhelming. And that's why, you know, it's good to talk to a lawyer that is well rehearsed in terms of how they'll help you kind of channel yourself through even disclosure. When it's appropriate and how much of it is appropriate at what given juncture, at what time, and what needs to be put forward, and then what needs to be updated and put forward during negotiations. It's all very strategic and it's very particularly planned.
Guys, this is all they have to go through. There's so much work. I think I always advise to the couples if they can make it up, if they can work it out. So just please don't go through to this divorce thing. It's it's not.
It's complex.
It's complex, and if you can fix your marriage, try to fix it. Right, Sabeeya, you agree?
Yeah, 100%. Like I always vouch for that. Like if they can, you know, the very first option is, you know, the very first discussion is, you know, have you had the conversation of, you know, trying a marriage counselor? But the unfortunate bit is when people do approach our firm, they've already exhausted those means. They've already had those conversations, those loaded conversations. And now they feel like, you know, that's the end for them because now it's gouging into them personally and mentally they can't take it anymore. And unfortunately, sometimes physically people can't take it anymore. And if you feel like you're in that situation or if you find yourself in that predicament, it's very important that you seek the right help. You might need the help of a marriage counselor, a psychiatrist, a psychologist. You need to, you know, maybe talk to your family doctor about it before, you know, you go off to see your lawyer. So exercise those options before, you know, you come to a lawyer like myself. And if you feel like, you know, you've now made that informed decision and, you know, you need to see yourself through a divorce, then you need to connect, and you need to connect to someone that you feel you're comfortable with. Because if you're not comfortable with your working relationship with your lawyer, that's also a real struggle.
Yeah.
Right? You want to make sure that there's a zone of comfort that you can then talk to them about your life with, because everything's going to spew out.
I think before going through to all this, the communication. So better, both partners, they need to talk. The communication is a key, right?
Yeah, yes, communication is key. Having transparency, honesty, discipline. These are all elements of a good, grounded marriage. And being compassionate and humanitarian, like all these things I think make a foundation of a good marriage. Not that I'm a marriage counselor, but you know, these are just things that are personal to me and what I believe in. And when you have this all intact, I feel like that's what gives you a strong foundation. If you feel like, you know, you can't go through that, or you know, you don't have that anymore, or there's a loss of it, then that's where you see that breakdown. And that's where, you know, where Saima has been saying very gracefully, you know, go see someone go see a marriage counselor or a doctor or a psychiatrist or a psychologist before you exercise that option of, you know, going through a divorce. But another thing is that separation doesn't always mean divorce, right?
Yeah.
Separation could mean, we're going to have this separation agreement drafted between us for the sake of the children, potentially, because within a separation agreement, we house a parenting plan, sorry. We house a parenting plan. And, maybe for the 1 year, if everyone's going based on that very guided parenting plan, then maybe by the end of the 1 year term, you don't need to divorce. Maybe that separation agreement helped you polish what were your shortcomings, right? So a separation doesn't always equal divorce, right? Yeah.
I hope this show will help many couples who are going through to this process, right, Sabeeya?
Yeah, I hope it's given them that that little bit of more information so they can take it and think about it, and it can help people sitting on the fence, right? Like, maybe I should pivot back and think about, do I want to make this happen, or do I need to now pivot forward and go for that separation? Many of you may not know that separation equals divorce. Maybe now it's new to you that, exercising the option of having a separation agreement is there for you so that, you can, as a party, collectively channel yourself through for the year and then see how it goes from there. So maybe that might help some couples, right?
Also, Sabeeya, many of my clients, because many people, they have pets, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they treat pet as their child, right?
They do.
Yeah, so when they get separated or divorced, how do you guys help them towards who keeps the pet?
Oh, okay, so that's a really good question, and it has come up a lot of times. So a lot of people have these emotions connected towards their pets as if that pet is their child. But the law doesn't govern a pet as a child. It's unfortunately seen as a piece of property. So it would go into disclosures, and we would have to have those deep-rooted conversations in terms of who gets to keep the pet or who gets to purchase out the pet. So if you have the buying power to buy out your pet, you could potentially propose that you do have the buying power. This is what I'm willing to pay for it. Now I get to keep the pet in whole. Some people even have end on such a clean break that they're able to put together like a pet plan where 3 of the days in the week it stays with person A, and then the remaining of the week it stays with person B. So there's many options there. It's not a child. It is seen as property. You can potentially purchase it out, or you can potentially propose a plan in order to make that work.
It's so funny. My kids, they just 6 months ago, they adopted a cat.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, and that cat is now part of the family.
Honestly, I know those feelings.
And it seems she's my third child.
Yes, it is like that. Oh my God, I had pets growing up, and it feels like you manifest all these feelings towards them that I totally resonate with clients when they say that, I need to keep my pet because I love my pet. And I get that because I come from that. And they just instantly click with me because they're like, oh my God, she understands. She has emotions towards.
You understand the
Yes,
pain,
I understand that. It's like some clients come in and they say, oh, well, you're not a mom. You don't understand. It's like, hold on, I am a mother and I understand. And we instantly warm up to each other. And we get that working, we cultivate that working bond, and it's so lovely because then they understand that I understand them in full, and that it means something very important to them.
Yeah. So is it a simple process because people get scared if it's going to be hard?
Yeah. So there are a lot of narratives out there that when you start your divorce process, it's going to be very difficult. You're going to be gnawing at each other, and it's going to go on for years. That's not the case. You shouldn't shy away or be afraid from seeking legal information and advice. It can be a very meaningful, very time-sensitive process where if you feel that time is very important for you and you don't want to be caught within this matter for a very long time, you should have those conversations with your lawyer right from the start. That, listen, This is maybe potentially really stressing me out, or it's not allowing me to sleep at night, and I don't want to be in it I don't want to be in it for a very long process. Then we can talk to you about what is very important, where you should negotiate, how you should, weigh out your risks and liabilities and responsibilities. And we can have those informed conversations with you so that we can keep time in mind when we're going through the divorce process. So the answer is it doesn't have to be scary and ugly if you don't want it to be.
We are the first generation, probably in 100 years, who saw this pandemic, and we have seen so many marriages. They ended during or after pandemic. Sabeeya, what do you say?
Yes, I agree to that. So during the COVID pandemic, everyone was barred at home, right? We didn't have a social life, and now shifted online, and we weren't able to do the simplest things anymore, like go to the movies or go shopping. And when we got locked at home, what that did was that increased a lot of domestic issues, unfortunately, and there was a lot of frustration now outside and domestically at home. And what that did was couples that were already on the brinks of sort of falling apart, it kind of tipped them over the edge. Because people lost their voice of reason. Maybe there was someone who would, take a break in the day and go see their voice of reason, a mom, a sister, or a best friend, and then come home alleviated and relieved, and then they were able to take on those domestic challenges. But because COVID, the pandemic, kind of stopped us from interacting or seeing our voice of reason, that pushed people over the edge, and then we saw a heavy increase in people wanting to exit their relationships. And we did have a lot. What our firm did during COVID was we had a sort of informational helpline relief line that we had opened up interimly during that process, where people could come on the phone with one of our lawyers and just take up the conversation in terms of what can I do. It was a simple question like that people needed guidance on. Here I am, counsel, I am stuck in this marriage, what can I do? And then that's where we would break down the various options available to them about, separating, seeking mediation, arbitration, MEDAR, or potentially putting in an application and going into court to, seek their rights there. So there were so many people, and it was so astonishing to me, that didn't even know how the process even began. So if you feel like, you're in that situation, then Saima's show is so important to watch in full, because we just spent the last half hour trying to break down that information and make it as simple as possible so that you can take away from it and seek some information. And no point is this legal advice, but information so that you can now pivot from it and know that, okay, these are my options that I may potentially have available, and that I may want to seek either marriage counseling, or I think I need to see a lawyer, and that I'm going to call one now.
Thank
Right?
you. That's
You're welcome.
actually really a good information for everyone.
Yeah, it really is. Thank you so much for doing this. It really is. It really helps the community in whole.
Yeah. We have provided you the reasons why divorce rate went up for the last few years. And the main reasons we have discussed can be financial problems, getting married too young, or probably a social media, or infidelity, extramarital affairs. They can be probably the main reasons. And how can you save your marriage? We have discussed how you can save your marriage. That's the first thing you can do. You can first speak to your partner, and communication is the key. And then if it does not work out, you can connect to your best reachable lawyer, or you guys can speak to Sabeeya and the team, and you can find her phone number on the screen. Sabeeya, what is your advice to the couples who are going to break their marriage?
I feel like, just some words of wisdom, not advice, but, like if you feel like you're at that predicament that, you just don't know. You don't know if you want to divorce or, stay married, then I feel like if you don't think that marriage counseling is an option or you've exhausted that option, then you need to educate yourself in terms of what a separation agreement may mean. Maybe that could be your best viable option. And then what you can do is you can use that for a year to see if you can see your way out of a divorce and not have to exercise that option maybe towards the end of it. And, take it from there. So give yourself that time, give yourself that, break for a year, and then see, maybe at the 1 year end mark, you could come back together and save your family. But maybe at that 1 year mark, now that, you're a better person and you cannot go back to your toxic spouse and you need to divorce, then at least you tried all the options that were there.
Thank you, Sabeeya. Thanks for being my guest today.
Thank you for having me. It was lovely. It's always wonderful to connect with you, Saima.
Thank you. And I really enjoyed, and I hope this show can help everyone over there who's watching this show. And guys, my advice, not really advice, I don't like to advise, it's just my few words I want to say. Please take care of your families, take care of your spouses, take care of your children, and life will be easy, trust me. And I'll see you in my next episode. Bye.